Hello guys and welcome to a new CMM review. Today I'm covering the Xiaomi phone with the slimmest bezels to date. Yes, I'm talking about the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3. The manufacturer took a whole new approach to the Mix series with this phone, using a slider mechanism to move the front camera out of the lower bezel. So let's check out how well this new concept works out and if the Mix 3 is as amazing as it looks on the paper. I purchased this review unit from Trading Shenzhen, a Chinese shop operated by a guy from Austria. Trading Shenzhen is one of the few Chinese shops where customer service actually is great, so it's definitely worth a closer look. Make sure to hit that link down below in the video description where you'll find a coupon code as well. Back to the phone, let's first have the usual look at the design, and there are quite some changes compared to the Mix 2S. The rear cover still is covered by ceramic, but it's got a new shape. It's now curved to the left and right edges, which makes the phone look nearly identical to the Xiaomi Mi 8 with that vertically aligned camera module and the round fingerprint scanner. The shape of the frame is very similar as well. It comes with a glossy finish that has a silver sheen to it and matches up with the rear color, so if you buy the green Mix 3 you will get a green frame as well. In terms of build quality, the phone doesn't have any shortcomings, at least on its body. The buttons have a nice tactile feedback and don't rattle, all ports and openings are crafted precisely and there are no gaps or sharp edges. The biggest design change compared to all previous Mi Mix generations is the slider. Xiaomi hides the front camera behind the screen panel in order to reduce the lower screen bezel even more. But actually the slider is what disappointed me the most about this phone. Reason for that is build quality, which definitely doesn't come close to the level that Xiaomi would have liked to reach. Immediately after using the phone for the first 5 minutes, I noticed that the screen does wobble around to the left and right when operating the touchscreen with a bit more pressure on the upper or lower area, for example when moving icons or scrolling something to the left or right. From a purely technical perspective, that isn't much of a problem, but it causes a cheap feel, which is something that in my opinion shouldn't happen on a phone that comes with a premium price tag. And the sad thing is that the slightly loose display doesn't only cause wobble. Tapping on the screen results in a rattling noise. And the same thing happens when you type on the screen. The vibration feedback of the on-screen keyboard causes the screen to resonate, which then causes a loud noise depending on the angle you hold the phone while typing. Regarding the slider mechanism itself, I am satisfied. Xiaomi did a great job balancing it out. I never managed to open the slider accidentally, yet it can be easily opened with just one hand and the haptic feedback it gives is satisfying. In terms of longevity, I don't think it will break too fast. Opening and closing the slider still feels like on day one, despite me opening it 500 times in a row for testing purposes. What I can't tell after a week of use, however, is how it behaves when dirt gets inside. This is something only time will tell. Moving on to the screen, quite some things did change here. Obviously, it looks better and more symmetric thanks to the reduced lower bezels. But they also changed the screen technology. The Mix 3 now comes with a Super AMOLED screen with a resolution of 2340 by 1080 pixels and a peak brightness of 600 nits, which makes it very readable under sunlight. The picture quality is really good and I like the color reproduction, which is perfect on stock settings. In addition, there is support for HDR videos, which is a huge benefit in case you have access to HDR content. Comparing it to standard screens, the picture looks just so much better. The screen glass and touch screen are flawless as well. The screen recognizes any inputs reliable, it's very accurate and also fast typing doesn't cause any issues. The glass remains scratch-free during daily unprotected use and isn't a fingerprint magnet. Of course, after a day of use there will be some fingerprints, but they are always very easy to wipe off. Having a look at the specs, not too much has been changed there. Just like its predecessor, the Mix 3 utilizes the Snapdragon 845 once again and thus is a great performer. Until today there are no apps or games which fully utilize this chip, so it's still totally future-proof. The thermal throttling issues of the Mix 2 have been resolved, and the Mix 3 only does get slightly warm to the touch when being under high load. The Antutu score has improved a little accordingly. The memory still is based on a LPDDR4X dual-channel RAM, and you can pick between 6GB, 8GB or even 10GB options. For your personal data there still is fast UFS 2.1 storage, and Xiaomi ditched the 64GB option. Instead, the Mix 3 now starts at 128GB and goes up to a maximum of 256GB with no microSD expansion. Unlocking the phone can be done through Face Unlock, but to be honest I never used it as a daily driver because in my opinion it takes too long and is inconvenient since you always have to pull the slider down for it to work. Also, there is no infrared face unlock like on the Xiaomi Mi 8. It's much more convenient to just use the fingerprint scanner on the rear, which is blazingly fast and very reliable, as well as easy to reach, so there really isn't any reason to use face unlock on this phone. As most Xiaomi devices, the Mix 3 comes with a ton of sensors. Next to the basics, it packs a compass, gyroscope, a step counter and even a pressure sensor, all of which do work fine. There also is a status LED they squeezed right into the upper frame, which however only lights up in white. Something I'm surprised about is that the USB Type-C port only supports USB 2.0 and not 3.0. With the Mix 3, Xiaomi finally starts to switch to Android 9 Pie, which the MIUI 10 ROM running on here is based on. The security patch is up to date as well. As with most new high-end Xiaomi phones, the Mix 3 is not available with a global ROM yet, so you will have to live with the China firmware or use a custom ROM until they release an official global ROM. But there actually is good news. Xiaomi makes installing the Google Play Store on a China MIUI ROM much easier now. The Google services actually come pre-installed, so all you have to do is to install the Google Play Store APK and you are good to go. So the only flaw remaining is missing multi-language support. You can only pick between Chinese and English. Well, actually it's not the only flaw. Another thing is that Google Sync doesn't work properly. Google Contacts and Calendar don't sync for some reason, which in my case results in an empty contact list. Moving on to wireless performance, it's great to see that once again the Mix 3 can be used in all countries. At least that applies to the models with 256GB of storage, since those offer global frequency coverage. The 128GB models can be used in a lot of countries as well, but they still do lack support for some network bands, which can be an issue, for example in the United States, where the phone is incompatible with some network operators. The reception quality of the phone is top-notch and among the best I've got my hands on to date. The Wi-Fi module supports fast AC Wi-Fi with 2x2 MIMO, and also here reception quality is excellent with no 2.4 GHz fallback, even one floor below the router. The Mix 3 also packs support for Bluetooth 5.0 and offers a decent reach. And for those in love with NFC, this is supported as well. For positioning, the phone utilizes dual-band GPS, dual-band Galileo, dual-band QZSS and single-band GLONASS as well as BDS. Reception quality is top-notch once again and accuracy is great with no issues during navigation or tracking. Audio unfortunately is where the Mix 3 does a step backwards. The Mix 2S was equipped with stereo speakers and the Mix 3 isn't. I personally don't get why, since there is no obvious reason, but at least the mono speaker inside the phone does sound decent. If you want to use 3.5mm headphones, you need to use a Type-C adapter, which Xiaomi luckily includes. Telephony quality is crisp and clear on both ends. It's interesting that the Mix 3 packs two earpieces, allowing you to drop calls both with an opened and closed slider. Oh, and by the way, don't worry about the voice microphone being covered by the screen when the slider is opened. It doesn't impact the voice quality a bit. When it comes to camera, I leveled up my expectations a bit. Xiaomi uses the same main camera as in the Mix 2S, but they claim to have tweaked it by software. The front camera, however, is new and now uses a dual camera setup with a much higher resolution compared to the 5MP single sensor used in the Mix 2S. So how do the cameras perform? Starting with the front camera, I have to say that I don't notice much of a difference compared to the predecessor. Yes, I did disable the Face Beautify feature, but still selfies don't look as crisp and detailed as I expected. Actually, the Redmi Note 6 Pro and the Pocophone F1 do much better selfie shots. Basically, the only thing that benefits from the new front camera is the portrait mode. The bokeh mode is more reliable and you are able to tweak the results afterwards. Also, the Studio Light feature is available for selfies, which allows you to apply some nice special effects. Recording videos is possible with a maximum resolution of Full HD and 30 FPS. The quality is similar to the picture quality. So what about the main camera? Does this one perform better? Well, partially. Indeed, the daylight performance has been further improved. In my opinion, the color reproduction has been tweaked quite a bit and AI shots definitely do look much better and more realistic now. All in all, I love the camera for daylight shots since it takes really detailed and sharp photos. However, there are some drawbacks. First, HDR performance got worse compared to the Mix 2S. It has issues with difficult lighting situations like for example sunset. There definitely is more noise now, which the camera software tries to suppress, resulting in a loss of detail, which however is mostly noticeable on large screens only. By the way, it looks like low light performance in general has gotten worse, contrary to what Xiaomi claims. When directly comparing low light shots of the Mix 2S to those of the Mix 3, you notice that the Mix 3 catches less light. Also, the Mix 3 shots are noisier and they don't show as much detail. To me it looks like the software has issues picking the right ISO value, which right now is an issue on a lot of Xiaomi devices. And what's kind of hilarious is that the new night mode, which allegedly should perform similar to the free-handed long exposure feature of the Huawei P20 Pro, kinda sucks. All it does is to deliver a better dynamic range. It prevents light sources from looking overexposed, but in exchange the picture quality gets even worse than in standard mode, so it's not of much use and I really hope that Xiaomi will continue to work on that until the Mix 3 performs as advertised. When using manual mode for night shots, the phone performs better, especially when using a tripod and long exposure. The Mix 3 then does crisp shots with a decent color reproduction. The LED flash also doesn't perform too bad, the shutter time is rather short, which prevents shaky pictures. Also, it doesn't cause washed out colors and is bright enough to light up larger rooms. Since the main camera is a dual camera, it supports bokeh shots as well. You shouldn't set your expectations too high though, since the bokeh mode doesn't perform great on most Xiaomi phones. When enabling bokeh mode, the camera zooms in quite a bit, which makes it very sensitive to shaky hands. In addition, the bokeh mode isn't very accurate and has issues with complex objects. Also, there is a very obvious reduction of sharpness and details in all bokeh shots. The options for adjusting the bokeh effect afterwards and applying studio light effects are available for the main camera as well. The secondary rear camera also offers a 2x optical zoom. The results do look good, but you should hold the phone steady because there is no OIS on the zoom lens. Something I noticed as well is that when using zoom, the color reproduction is quite a bit different, meaning that the color tuning of two sensors doesn't match. Something the Mix 3 handles great is recording 4K video. It now supports up to 60 FPS in 4K mode, resulting in smooth footage and more possibilities in video editing. The picture quality is really good with near to no artifacts, even on fast movements. The autofocus performs great as well, getting you a sharp picture with as good as no delay and no pumping. The optical image stabilization has been improved significantly as well. The audio quality is satisfying as well, but not perfect. In my opinion, it does lack a bit of bass. Also, the colors could be improved since the footage shows a reddish tint, which again is an issue on a lot of Xiaomi phones. Finally, slow motion has been improved as well. You can now record slow motion videos with up to 960 FPS at 1080p resolution. Be in mind, however, that 960 FPS uses burst mode, so the high frame rate is sustained only for a short period of time, which makes timing your shots kinda hard. Nonetheless, the results do look impressive. And with that being said, let's close the camera chapter and move on to the battery. Some reviewers out there claim that battery life has been improved significantly. I myself never believed that because the battery actually got smaller. It now offers a capacity of 3200 mAh compared to 3500 mAh on the Mix 2S, so technically there is no way battery life could be improved dramatically. And guess what? I wasn't wrong with being skeptic about that. Xiaomi managed to reduce standby consumption, which makes up for the smaller battery. When I used the phone as my daily driver, battery life has been exactly the same as on the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S. One charge lasted me for 1 to 2 days depending on usage intensity. I think that anyone claiming a dramatic increase in battery life just didn't use the phone as his daily driver, meaning that his results are mostly based on standby consumption. For charging, Xiaomi still stick with Quick Charge 3. Yep, there also is support for Quick Charge 4 Plus, but you don't get a charger for it. What's neat though is that the phone once again supports wireless charging, and this time Xiaomi even includes a charging pad with support for 10 watts QI wireless quick charging, so you can use wireless quick charging without having to buy a charging pad. The Xiaomi wireless charger works really well and packs a rubberized finish, which makes it non-slippery, so your phone won't slide off the pad. That comes with a downside though, since the finish makes it a dirt magnet that is hard to clean. After just a day of laying around, there is a lot of dust on it, which is hard to remove. Xiaomi probably would have been better off painting that thing black instead of white. So that's it for this review. What's the verdict? Well, without a doubt, the Mi Mix 3 is an interesting phone with a nice concept, and it is far from being a bad device. It packs a lot of boom for the buck, and quite frankly, I have had a lot of fun using that thing as my daily driver for a week. Nonetheless, I still have to criticize the Mix 3 for some things. Xiaomi is becoming a company spilling out big promises without delivering accordingly. We have seen this numerous times now, and the Mix 3 is another perfect example. Take this LiDAR. During the launch, Xiaomi was bragging about how they put so much work into this thing to make it perfect. But reality does look different. Sure, the mechanism is nice, but it's far from being perfect, since it does wobble, it does rattle, and it does vibrate. And no, that's not just my unit, it is the same on all units. And the same thing is happening with the camera. Xiaomi did promise a greatly improved camera and somehow even got the XO mark to back that claim, yet I don't see much of those improvements. Sure, daylight performance has been further improved somewhat, and also video performance got better, but low light performance actually is much worse than on the Mix 2S, and Xiaomi still haven't managed to create a bokeh effect on par with devices from Huawei, OnePlus, Apple and other big brands. So in the end, I have no issues recommending the Mix 3. It sure is a decent phone, but I wouldn't recommend switching from a Mix 2S just for the camera. If you want to do the switch, it should be purely for the design reasons. And with that, I want to end this video and ask you, what's your take on the Mix 3? If you own one, what is your experience? Feel free to share your thoughts down below in the comments. So that's it. I was Christopher for CMM, thank you for watching and have a good one. Bye.